Hey, Ben here from Performer. You can see I'm visibly excited. Today's special delivery is one I've been waiting for a long time. We're checking out the Moog Sub Phatty, which we just named in our synth issue as the best synth under $1,000. Digital, analog, whatever, absolute best synth under $1,000. And if I can contain my excitement, you'll see why in a minute. Stay tuned. All right, and here we are with the Moog Sub Phatty in the office. We named this the best synth under $1,000. That's US pricing, but it really doesn't matter what country you're from. This is an amazing, amazing instrument. So perfectly designed. Like, this is the design of my dreams. If I were just starting out with the synthesizer, I unfortunately had to learn on an Art Odyssey, but this would have been my dream panel layout because it gets you into the process so easily. If you've never used an analog synth before, this breaks it down so simply, so perfectly. It illustrates a one knob per function genius that Moog has perfected. I wouldn't recommend any other board for anybody who's seriously thinking about an analog synth for this price point. $799 is what this retails for, and it just sounds amazing. Let's go through it really quickly, and then we'll hear some tones. So up here, you've got your presets. You've got 4 banks of 4, so 16 onboard presets, but with the editor software that comes with it for free, that's pretty much unlimited, so you can come up with 1 billion tones. 16 is probably all you really need for, most stage gigs. And of course, you can activate the panel on the fly, so you can really fine-tune whatever sound you want whenever. It just happens to have 16 onboard. You've got your fine tuner here in case you're playing with a band that tunes to something non-standard, and then your glide rate for setting portamento, your octave button so you can jump up and down really easily. Really nice and smooth. All of these knobs are so sturdy, such a well-made panel. Whoever did the graphic design, kudos, by the way, too. You can see there you got a little MIDI light, so that'll light up when you're transmitting or receiving MIDI information. You can see my LFO rate is blinking there. I have it set pretty high. I was playing around with that, getting some wacky sounds, but your modulation section's really simply laid out. You've got your source here, so you can pick whatever waveform you want. You can even have the filter envelope generator set as one of your sources. Here's your LFO rate, so you can set the speed of that. And you can have it affect a couple of different things. Pitch amount, filter amount, wave amount, which is cool. You can also have it, when you affect the pitch amount, only affect oscillator 2. So you can keep oscillator 1 steady, and then if you increase modulation using the mod wheel here, only affect the pitch of oscillator 2. So that's kind of cool. Here's your oscillator bank. You can choose your octave, where you actually want to be. Your settings there are in feet from 16 down to 2. You can sync oscillator 1 and 2 together, which is one of those kind of cool classic synth sounds. You can also set the frequency of oscillator 2, so you can detune that a little bit. For me, it gives kind of a nice little chorus effect. Here's what they sound like in tune. So now, if we were to go and just maybe bump that up, not even a semitone, and listen to it again. So you get kind of that cool, shimmery, kind of bleeding against each other type thing. And if we detune just slightly, not even a semitone, and now we play it in tune, you can hear the difference there. I love having it just slightly off. Gives it a little bit more of an organic feel. The wave selectors here are awesome because they're variable. You can go all the way from this nice triangle wave. Let's hear just oscillator 1, no sub oscillator, no oscillator 2, just a triangle wave. Very, very smooth and nice. As you dial up past 10, you can actually add a little pre-filter gain. So let's take that back down. Let's add our sub oscillator and oscillator 2 back up. All right, so the waveform you can sweep right through. You get your sawtooths and your squares all the way down to pulse. So really, short squares. Let's set that back. Here's your mixer section, really standard stuff. But like I said, once you hit past the halfway point, say between 6 and 8, once you start pushing it past there, you'll actually add a little pre-filter distortion. So that's cool. We'll get to more distortion in a second. There's your sub oscillator. You can pump that up. That's going to be a square wave 1 octave down from oscillator 1. Oscillator 2, and your noise. I believe that's just white noise that you can add in as necessary. Typically, I'll only throw that in on percussive type of effects, but it's great to have it on board, and it's a really good noise generator too. Everything about this board is good. Everything feels so solidly built. If we take a look back, the key bed is fantastic. It's got these full-size, really nicely weighted keys. Now it is a monophonic synth, so it's not going to do polyphony or even duophony like a Odyssey, which I learned on, which I'll probably repeat 1,000 times that I learned on an Odyssey just because it was so painful. But that said, if you use this as a MIDI controller, which is one of the awesome things about this, is every single knob and switch and button here will transmit MIDI data. So you can kind of map this to whatever program you're using if you have a lot of software-based synths or emulator programs in your DAW. This is a great MIDI controller just because the keyboard feels so good. And if you're doing stuff, in software and you're not a concert pianist and you need like 8 full octaves or anything like that, this 2-octave board will do you just fine. And even if you do need a little bit more, transposing up and down takes, what does that take? Half a second? Not even? A millisecond? Anyway, getting to the granddaddy of everything here is the filter. What can I say? It's a classic Moog 4-pole ladder filter. It sounds amazing, so let's sweep. Does it get any better than that, really? No, and I'm a guitar guy, and I love that. That's what I want in a synthesizer, an amazing sweep like that. Look at, get way down there to the cutoff, and pump it up. So good. You've got your resonance, and multi-drive is cool because it adds a little post-filter gain, so you can really get kind of aggro. Let's take that off. You can hear the difference there. It adds a really thick layer, but it's not obnoxious distortion. It's actually really musical, which is great. Here's your envelope generator amount and your keyboard tracking. I usually set those about in the middle, although I add a little more of the envelope in there because I like that kind of classic wet sound, more of a traditional 70s synthesizer sound. Think Funkadelic, think Herbie Hancock, that kind of dripping wet bass line, that sort of thing is what I like. But again, you can do a million different things on this board. There's an unlimited amount of sounds you can make. Here's your envelopes. You got one for filter, one for amp, both the same ADSR, standard setup. It's such a great envelope. Really helps add to that organic sound. You might not think of a synthesizer as an organic sounding instrument, but once you start adding those human touches of giving a note a little more attack or a little more decay or adding some release when you actually take your finger off the note, those are the things that give it that human touch. And everything on this board, and we've been testing it out for weeks, is so fantastic that I couldn't come up with a single complaint. I couldn't find anything that wasn't to the peak level of design or sound. Just not enough good things to say about it. And because this is an instrument in a class of its own. Here's your output section. You've got your master volume, your headphone volume. Here's your headphone jack. One word of note, if you do have headphones plugged in and you want to kind of practice silently, just make sure you've got a little master volume up. If you have just a headphone volume up, you're probably not going to get any sound. And that's one of the things that they do allude to in the manual. Speaking of which, the manual is fantastic. If you've never used a synthesizer before, what's great about this, like I've said, it's one knob per function. There are some under the hood features that you could get into, and that's easily done through kind of a wacky series of steps, but more easily through the editor software, which is fantastic. So you can access a number of different parameters, like changing how much pitch bend, changing actually the pole on the filter. You can go 1, 2, 3, 4, I believe. Instead of just a standard 4-pole filter, there's a lot of different really cool hidden features. So if you're just getting into the world of synth and you just want to kind of mess around with a really cool analog mono board, this is a wonderful place to start, especially at $7.99. It's kind of insane considering what you know, old mini Moogs go for these days. And if you don't need something as elaborate as like a Sub 37, really this is the board to look at. What else can we say? Let's go into some patches here. I've loaded up a couple. You'll hear that some of them sound very similar just because of what I prefer in sounds. Let's go to Bank 1 Patch 3. Excuse the playing, I'm holding the camera at the same time. I'm just playing the same riff over and over so you can hear the sound difference. It's not anything spectacular, but if I play the same thing, you can really hear the difference. I like that one because it's a really good bass sound. Let's go into maybe Bank 2. So this was an interesting one. I found that you can actually play the filter on its own, and I saved a patch right away because I figured I'd forget how to do it, but really this thing will self-oscillate and you'll get kind of that really X-Files type sine wave sound. It tracks pretty well. I wasn't expecting it to track pretty well just playing the filter on its own, but it's kind of one of those hidden tricks. You know, this doesn't have a sine wave that you can choose from here, but if you do kind of get the filter up there self-oscillating, you know, working the resonance and the cutoff just right, you can get that X-Files sort of sound. So that's neat. What else we got here? I like that one. That's a little detuned as well. So many sounds. Those are my kind of go-tos for creating a bass line, but this is by no means just a bass instrument. Even though I think a lot of the marketing material may present it as such, or online retailers will present it as such, there's no reason, even though it only has a 2-octave board, this can't be a fantastic lead instrument. Great MIDI controller, great bass instrument. It really does everything, and the number one thing is it has that Moog sound for such a fantastic price. I can't reiterate that enough. I think I've rambled quite enough. You've heard a couple sounds. You've seen the panel. It's built wonderfully. It sounds amazing. It's at a great price. There's nothing left to say, so I'm going to shut up and thank you for watching.